I wanted to give you an overview of what we're going to be doing today, and that is we are going to be moving on to our agenda. We will be recording the session today, so if you miss anything, have to step away. If for some reason your connection doesn't work for you, we have it all recorded, and it will be posted to the website for the program, utility rebate programs, along with all the questions that are asked today. We will be putting those in an FAQ as well. And so we appreciate your time. Welcome. If you have any questions today, the way that we're going to handle those questions is through the webinar's interface, the chat window that should be on the lower part of the control panel that comes with your webinar. What you can do is you can put in a question. You can pose it to the entire audience, or if you have a particular question that you just want to share directly with me, or which is I'm the organizer for the event, you can type in there as well. We will post all of those onto the FAQ if there are questions about the content of what we're talking about today. We do encourage everyone to please make it clear in your question what it is you are referring to during the presentation. We may not be able to answer all the questions during the call or in the moment that it's posed, and so if you refer to what it is you're asking about, it'll help us answer it properly when we get around to it. Assisting me today is Rebecca Brown. She's also with BKI, and she will be looking over the questions as they come in and organizing them and trying to pose some of those back to me as we go through the session. I'll also be pausing to answer some of the questions that come in. Just as a matter of housekeeping, because we have so many attendees, I have put everybody on mute, so there isn't an open mic. I apologize for those of you who might be more comfortable just asking your questions. Because there's so many people, we didn't want to create a lot of background interference for the call, so we do appreciate your patience with typing in questions. So let's get started. With respect to how today is going to go, I'm going to show you, just as a starting point, some of the online resources for getting the information you need to submit jobs and use EnergyPro and the Energy Upgrade California program. I won't spend too much time on that, but I just want to point out to you where those things are in case you're new to the program. And then also talk a little bit about how to make sure you've got the latest version of EnergyPro. And then we'll run through an example model, one that's already been built, and show how that would appear both in terms of what is expected to be reported to the utility program, and also how to put all of that into EnergyPro. And then the rest of the time will be dedicated to answering questions that people have posed as we go through. So the first step is to jump over to our online resources. What I'm going to do is switch over to our first part, which is the website for CVPCA. I'm going to switch over to that. So what I've got up right now is the CVPCA's Utility Rebate Program section. This is you can get here. Let me start by showing you. This is the page where the tips are for EnergyPro. If you're wondering how do you get there, you can see what the address is there at the top. If that's hard to remember, if you're not able to find this in the future, let's show you. You can always go to thecvpca.org or even cvpca.org and look for Energy Upgrade California at the CVPCA. When you click on that, it takes you right there. You end up going to the Utility Rebate Program, and the information related to jobs reporting and energy support are here under this participating contractor support section. So you just click on jobs reporting, and when you get to jobs reporting, you'll see that there is a place where we have the jobs reporting templates, both for PG&E and SMUD are listed there. The ones for Southern California will be posted soon. Those are undergoing revision, and so they are, there's no link there at the moment, but this is where you would come to get the template. It's an Excel file. You click on it, download it, and that is what is one of the pieces of information you have to submit with your application. Also, we have an energy support page, so you can see that there's EnergyPro support for both tips. The recording of the webinars can be found here, as well as their FAQs will be there as well. What what I'm going to do today is show you, if you go to the EnergyPro tips page, it is a step-by-step instruction on how to build a model and enter the improvements. This actually will be updated shortly. This week, in fact, we'll get this updated. And we'll try to turn around this webinar today and have it posted. Links to the today's webinar from this page as well. You can see that the previous webinar is already listed there. If you go through this page, it gives you some basic steps on how to model an EnergyPro model. There's also some sample files listed that we've prepared for you, and you can download those sample files as an example of what we see as the essential components of building your model. What's not here, but what we will add, is an example of a reporting template that actually goes along with one or more of these, so that you can compare how to fill in that template and compare that to how the EnergyPro model is expected to look when you're done. Once you've downloaded those sample files, notice they're in a zip file. You double-click on the zip file and it'll open up. You'll have pull those files out. You'll be able to pull them into your copy of EnergyPro. So let's switch over to copy of EnergyPro. Now today I'm going to assume you already have your copy of EnergyPro. For the Energy Upgrade California programs, we are using the Res Performance module. You can see it there up on the screen. The Res Performance module is one that we have found historically been the easiest to put in the changes that we want, and also EnergyPro has been, the makers of EnergyPro have been receptive to modifications that are more helpful for our program, adding things into this particular module. So that's what we're using. Let me start off by, I do have one of the models open right now, but what I want to point out before we start digging into this model is that everyone, when you are submitting your job, we're expecting you to run your updates before you do your simulation, just to make sure that you've got the latest version. And there's a way to do that automatically if you go to the tools here in EnergyPro. You don't even have to have a model open to do this. Go to tools and configure updates. Click on that, and you'll see that you actually have a choice. You can ask it to update daily, weekly, monthly. You never know when one's coming along. I have mine daily. Of course, you can have it set however you feel comfortable. But if you do that, you hit finish, and it'll just say OK. Then it will trigger the automatic updates. If you aren't sure it's been working, if it hasn't been updating, you can also go to the Help menu, and there's a check for updates over here. And what will happen is when you click on that, you have to have an internet connection. You will see that there is a screen that either tells you you're running the latest version of the application, or that you are basically that you are not up to date, and you would need to click I'm running the latest version of the application. So that's great. I can click finish. And then we want to go back to our EnergyPro. So I know I'm running the latest version. That's great. Then I can run my simulations. I'll show you an example of that a little bit later on, how to run through the simulation process. So before we get into this as well, running this model, there's one last thing I want to show you guys before we, and ladies, before we start digging into the EnergyPro model. So a moment ago when we were looking at the EnergyPro tips page, there's sample files we were downloading. We were also looking at the jobs reporting page, downloading the jobs reporting template. I want to show you what it looks like when you downloaded the template. So many of you may be familiar with this already. Wait for that to come up. So here's the jobs reporting template. This one happens to be for PG&E. The ones for Edison and for SMUD are similar. Essentially, there's a tab in there that says Advanced Pre-Retrofit. We're going to focus on that today. If you're doing a basic job, there's one that's Basic Pre-Retrofit. Essentially, what you need to do is you're filling in the information about the home and the account holder. A couple things we'll just point out, by the way. When you are filling in this information, it is useful to us because the utilities are going to compare what's reported here with the account numbers that you give down below. So make sure that those actually match. In particular, they want service account numbers, not general account numbers. Unfortunately, utilities seem to give homeowners two different account numbers for one that's more associated with their overall bill, and then a service account number is very specific to their meter. Look for service account number. That's how they check for the qualification for the rebates. And this number has to match this name up here. That's account holder. So make sure that's happening. I don't want to belabor any of this form too much, but I just wanted to point out that this form does have all the pieces for filling in the EnergyPro model. And on the latest version of the template, if you go over to the far right, so you actually scroll your tabs over the lid, you'll see that there's an advanced EnergyPro checklist. If you click on that, what's going on here is we've created a page that you don't type anything in here, but it lays all the information out in the order that you would run into it in EnergyPro. So I'm actually going to run through it looking at this just to give you a sense of how things work. And it actually indicates over here on the right where it says full EnergyPro path, it tells you what part of EnergyPro needs that information. So we'll use that as our guide today and actually open up a model. So coming over to EnergyPro, I'm going to switch over to it. Let's get to the good stuff. Here we are in EnergyPro. Let's say we just opened it. Nothing's open. We go to File, open up a file. You can pick one that you opened recently, or you just hit Open and browse for it. I know that this is the one I was looking at a minute ago, so I'm going to pick it off the list, open it up. I always like to start off by going to View, expanding that tree, so I don't have to click on every one little box and open it up. And here's our model. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through step by step what it takes to fill in the different parts and what's relevant to our model. And I will take a moment to look at any questions that come in as we go. Questions come in. So let's get started with this. What we're going to do first is we're going to just look at the very top level. So starting with the first tab, Project Design Data, this is the information that we want to make sure you're filling in here is you've got the orientation right. So notice they give you cardinal directions, but they put a number here. That's just the degrees of the direction. So if I pick south, it's going to be a front orientation of 0. Sacramento, well, if it's not Sacramento, you can take a pick off of this box over here. You can pick any city in California that they've got in the system. They've got quite a few. So don't just pick something nearby unless you've already checked to see that the city they're actually in isn't there. There's a lot of cities in the neighborhood of Sacramento that are also on this list. It's a pretty long list. So let's say they're in Citrus Heights. I scroll up, and I look, and they're, sure enough, there's Citrus Heights. So you would just pick the one that applies to your city. You would hit OK. I'm going to keep it in Sacramento because that's where I have this model built for. The other items along here, none of these actually are required elements, although it's good practice to give a name for the building. Project title, that's actually the name of basically the homeowner, where they live. So filling that in helps keep track if you need to go back in that way. You can track which house it is that's going on. The designer, this is the information of the person putting together the model. It's good practice to do this. We're not going to reject the file because it wasn't filled in, but it is good practice to have that in there. Also, if there's questions and we need to make sure we've got the right contact information for you or the homeowner, that's a good way to double check that. The other tab besides Project Design Data that has critical elements in it, remind you, it's orientation. Make sure that just says existing, got the city. Then over here in the HERS tab, this is the next piece that you need to check out. And in here, there's some baseload elements to the house that we want to make sure are in there correctly. This is the power rating for the inside refrigerator, the one in the kitchen. It is, if you don't have a way to check or you aren't sure to check, just leave it at the default, which we've gotten here at 700. I think some of our other models put it at 775. We will accept what default that you have. If you find out it's a different number, as long as you list it in your jobs reporting template, you can put a different number in there. If they have a second refrigerator in the garage, this just means second